Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm so excited to start this conversation with Dustan Knight, who is joining us from her studio in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Anyone who has any questions at all during the chat tonight, please either pop them in the chat or you can raise your hand and turn your camera on and say hello. Please just reach out at any time if you have a question. Let's get started. I'm Amy Regan from Seesaw Art. I'm located here in Manchester, New Hampshire. Our current exhibition is entitled Dreamlands and includes Dustan Knight alongside Lauren Karjala and Betsy Holmes. Dustin's work is just behind my shoulder here, these really gorgeous square abstract paintings. Betsy's work is here, and you can just barely see a little Lauren Karjala behind me. I'm so spoiled to have the most beautiful gallery this month. The exhibition is on view for one more week or so. It's up until April 27th. And I'm going to put in the chat Dustin's page on seesaw.gallery so you can follow along and look at the paintings there, but then also the entire exhibition page so you can see everything that's on view there as well. So welcome, Dusty. I will let you chat in just a minute, of course. We're so glad to have you. Excellent. So Dustan Knight was born in 1958 in Dayton, Ohio, and she is a professional artist, educator, and art writer. She earned a master's degree in fine art from the Pratt Institute in New York City and her master's in art history from the Boston University. She is a recipient of the New Hampshire State Fellowship in the Arts, a MacDowell Colony residency, and a past Cummington Artist Colony resident. Dustan is represented by galleries across the United States, including Art 3 in Manchester, the Algonquin Art Association in Maine. She's a contributing writer to Art New England, a frequent juror, and gives demonstrations and workshops in watercolor, art business, and art history. She has appeared in Watercolor Magazine, Daniel Smith, Cheap Joe's, and Ampersand Insider newsletters. Dustin's work is in many private and public collections, including Macy's, Acme, and Oralis, as well as numerous hospitals and New Hampshire public buildings. Welcome, Dusty. Great to see you.
Thanks for having me, Amy.
Excellent. So tell us a little bit about what patrons can expect when they visit Seesaw Art to see this exhibition.
Well, I wanted to say how happy I am to be showing there and how I really admire what you're doing, and was really thrilled when you mentioned when we were chatting before that you have won the best gallery in what was that you were?
It was Reader's Choice for one of the best galleries in New Hampshire.
Wow, that's so fantastic! Congratulations! Really
That's for the Hippo.
Yeah,
the Hippo magazine here or newspaper, I should say, here in New Hampshire. And anyone who knows Seesaw Art, that would really blew me out of the water because we are probably also the smallest gallery in New Hampshire.
Tiny but mighty. Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, that's kind of, that's actually a nice segue to talking about my paintings, because this group that you've got there, they're small pieces. They're only, about 8 by 8 inches?
Yes, some are, they're 5 by 5 up to 8 by 8. Yeah, they're really sweet.
So they're really small. And I usually, as you saw when you came to the studio, I tend to work really big. You can see in this picture here, I'm pouring something on some big canvas. So I usually work really sort of gesturally with a lot of energy. So these pieces are really fascinating to me personally because they have that the big painting power in a small piece. Yes. I really love these. And I'm excited that you have them. I've never shown them before. They've always, we sort of found them stacked away somewhere, and they're really precious to me. And because of their power and because of the physicality of them, they really, I've been looking on my page and I look at it and go, wow, wouldn't that be great? 48 by 48 inches, so they really sort of inspire that. And, small but really powerful. And I also like the theme of them is kind of, I hadn't really thought about a theme for them. So when you said Dreamlands as the show, I thought, oh, that's pretty close to what they are, you know,
They
because
do feel like landscapes to me.
yes, exactly.
Definitely.
They're sort of memory landscapes. You know, you're working with the materials and they begin to sort of evoke feelings, and they trigger memories of past experiences in a landscape, you know, and it's, yeah, so they really begin to be sort of dreamscapes a lot on that. So they're really, I really love these. I have to say, you know, I have a lot of bigger work in my studio, but these are actually this size are the ones that I often take home with me. You know, you can always
Mhm.
tell what an artist really likes by what they have on their own walls. So when I take these little ones home and, you know, put them on over the door, you know, and I walk by them and wow, you know, they they're just as exciting as, you know, the 48 by 48s. So
Yes, definitely. And that really resonated with me when I visited your studio and we were chatting about this exhibition. That these were the pieces that like the small scale sizes, they weren't like they're instantly they kind of makes you think like, okay, this is Dustin's sketch. And it's kind of a jumping off point. It's like, no, these are the real deal.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then the work is trying to get that confidence into a piece that's 48 by 48. So they
Right.
are just like the cutest little gems ever. And talking about landscapes, especially this one, mountain trails, I think this might be my favorite one. But it's just the scratches here. It's the color. It's calls to me. You know, like I want to jump into that landscape.
Mhm.
So I really love that idea that like these are the finished pieces, and then those larger works become the challenge. I think that's great.
They do. They lose a lot of their kind of, when you get bigger, you can't get these huge areas of sort of surface that you can get on the small ones. So it really becomes quite a challenge to move them into a, but in fact, to be honest, it's kind of rare that I ever actually managed to get the intensity and the
Mhm.
power of these small pieces in the big pieces. So it's, yeah, it's pretty fun to go back and forth with scale on these.
I love that. And, you know, just saying that like this whole area is going to be this beautiful, beautiful orange. If it was blown up, it would be completely different. And what I tried to do was sort of it's hard to see scale, of course, they're smaller, but I picked out my favorite detail shot for each piece. And that was really fun because it kind of made me look at them even deeper and to say like, what is the part that's really resonating with
Uh-huh.
me, or really, you know, being able to describe your style. And I saw so much layering and just layering of really confident color to me. Oftentimes when I have a collection of work, it'll sort of be around the same like color palette in a way, which obviously artists traditionally work in that. But these to me, they seemed so free. And they each one seemed like an exploration. Your hand ties them together to me, like your line and your style. But it
Mm.
was really fun to include them in this exhibition because they're small. I sort of hung up all the big pieces and was like, okay, where are the jewels going to go now? And I really got to do a lot of fun curatorial stuff as
Mm.
far as installing. And I got to, because I have so many of them, I think I have around 22 of your works this month. I got to take some chances that I wouldn't have if I had 5 or something like that. So that was a really fun challenge to me to make sure that they were represented well, part of the install, but then just something a little bit different. And I think that that's really what these works are about too, is they're a little bit different.
Mhm. You can see in that one, in the layering on that. And so part of the process of doing these is you take a big chance. When you do a big swipe of color over something or a swipe of something, there's no way out, you know.
Yeah.
So you say, okay, I'm going to do this. And then you do it. And then that leads to the next thing, to either tweak that first thing that you've done or to celebrate the thing that you've done. And so the idea of the building up of the surfaces is really important to me in
Mm.
terms of a thin medium and then a thick surface. So some of my work
Yeah.
begins to be almost a low relief in terms
Yes,
of building up the impasto and really keeping the surface really eloquent. So it goes from almost bare surface to thick paint at the same, within the same painting.
Yeah, which I feel like is really tough to pull off. Like we want to make sure that things are even in a way, and to say like, okay, there's going to be this beautiful wave of medium on this one side, and then it'll be sort of like flat and beautiful, almost watercolor like on the other. There's some really beautiful examples of this coming up too, where you can just sort of see that thick, thick, thick layering that's happening here. Like this is so beautiful to me. It's so fun to take the smallest thing and then like zoom in on it a little bit more. I feel like a macro photographer a little bit.
Yeah, these really lead to that. They're just so full,
Yes, definitely. And I just have to mention too, they are the perfect price for collecting. They're $100 each, with the exception of one larger piece that I'll show in a little bit. I thought that was so generous and exciting to be able to get the work out there and into the homes of your collectors and admirers. And yeah, I just thought that was so lovely. So thank you.
Thank you. These pieces, having lived with quite a few of them, I can tell you that they get better and better and better the longer you live with them. So you know how sometimes if you have a picture of something, you sort of get to know the picture and then you know the picture. These pieces just continue to evolve, and you have a whole sort of looking experience with them, even this small. I think that's why they're in my, I bring them home. It's because they're not just they're not fast food. They're really about living with them, and I think they affect the person that looks at them too. You're with them now more, and you can begin to you fall in love with one, and then you see another thing. Oh no, I like that one better. It's really interesting about this kind of painting that it's not image centric.
It's gonna reflect maybe your mood or a feeling or the season, and it's like all the seasons are here to me. All the moods are here to me, and they've really been resonating with me and patrons this month. For sure. Let's dive into this one. Yeah, it's just so gorgeous. Let's see. So you're joining from your studio. What does your studio look like? Is it in your home? Is it outside of the home? And then what does your studio practice look like currently?
Well, I've had many different sort of studios in the 50 years I've been doing this, and I usually live in my studio. So, when you're I was in New York for 10 years, and I would pile my mattress on top of my canvases, that kind of thing, but recently, I'd say about 5 years ago, I moved into a fantastic studio over here at the Button Factory, and it's really it's affected me in a lot of ways in terms of I feel like now is a time where I'm kind of a big girl now. I mean, I was always, but now it's like, whoa, man, come to my studio. So it's, and you don't have to go through the kitchen on the way to the studio. So there's a professionalism that I have danced around for a long time. And so I'm really enjoying that. And I really like to have people come to the studio and sit around and talk about stuff. And because and also the work, because as we said, it takes a while to get used to it. It's fun to have people come to the studio and see them, their initial panic when they come in, and then they begin to sort of choose the pieces that they respond to. And then and usually, an hour later, so they have made decisions about things, this piece, so that's one of the cool things about the studio. Another thing about it is I have a large brick wall which I think when I came in here, I had the idea of painting like we did in graduate school, you just paint everywhere, on the ceiling, on the floor, but it's got this beautiful brick wall, and I didn't want to mess it up. And so instead it's become almost a gallery wall in the studio, which is a totally new idea for me, and it's a big wall.
Space too, right? Yeah.
So now all of a sudden I can actually put up 5 large paintings and sit back and look at them. So this whole idea of living with work and letting it have time to sit on the wall and not have to make up my mind about it instantly. But still having it be part of my creative conversation is really exciting. And I think it's really given my work a big boost. So, and besides that, my process is also beginning to be sort of become more predictable in sort of a scary way, in that because the studio is large, I can work on several different projects at the same time in completely different mediums. You saw that when you were here. And there's one area over here where I'm working with watercolor flowers, and over here I'm working with scrap wood sculptures, and we were talking about the glitter, so now I have glitter all over the floor. So there's and I just love that. I have problems because galleries will come to the studio, or people will come to the studio and they'll and
a lot to see.
A lot. It's a lot. It's very and it's doesn't hold together visually initially. It feels like I'm like crazy and schizophrenic, and so my metaphor for this is, I used to have a puppy, and we had this kitchen, would look out on this little yard, and this puppy was, like 4 months old, and he would be out in there, and he'd be, we put a milk carton and a toy and a ball and all these different toys in the front yard, and he would run in and he would wrestle with something, and then he'd bump into something else, and he'd drop what he's doing, he'd turn around and go, oh, and he'd go and he'd tear that up, He would just have this lovely time of just reacting to all of these things, and then one thing would lead to another thing. And so that's what it feels like in the studio. So that's my process. And it's a little crazy, but I really enjoy it.
You can walk in and say, this is resonating with me today. It would be a completely different thing to say, this is what I'm working on. I feel like it's more of a battle in that way, to say, like, obviously lovely to have the space if you can have it, right? So you can sort of walk in and be like, okay, what's speaking to me? Instead of like, I just have the room to work on this one painting, or these paintings kind of thing.
Yeah, Amy, I walk in and I say, hi, everybody.
I love that.
What's going on? And then
when I leave the gallery, I say, okay, bye, everybody. Behave.
Like, hi, how are we doing? And you look around and you see who wants to step up,
Definitely. Yeah.
So yeah, it's great.
Are you working in the studio daily? Do you come in every Tuesday, or you're in there every day?
All the time. Yeah. I and when I'm not in the studio, I'm doing art. So I'm completely, and I know that's your last question, but I'm completely in this world for me. My whole head is in it, and I think about it all the time. It's just yeah.
It's your air, essentially. Yeah, that makes sense. Definitely. I'm gonna get to the next one. Oh, I love this one. And this one was collected this weekend. There's a bravery here, and there's definitely the landscape. And I love this element of mixed media. I don't know what it is, but there's something that's sort of like hanging on there.
Yeah, sticking off the bottom.
Yeah, definitely. And sticking off this, like, I think it's one of the only pieces that has that element, which is exciting to me. The pink and the purple is really beautiful also.
I've been working with that idea since these small pieces of breaking the format. That's something that has also gotten more important to me. It's a little bit, I have some paintings that are more well behaved, and then some that are like not.
Yes.
So
I can see that. That's great. Yeah, this one. And I love your titles too. Some artists think they're important. Some artists think that you don't. Like, I could tell that you considered and like thought about the paintings and kind of went with that. They're really consistent, and they are just a little window into the thought process, which I think titles are really important. So
they often happen for me toward the end of the painting. So, or to the middle, to the end. So there'll be a working title somewhere in the middle, and then at the end, it will say what it is.
Yes. Yeah. It says, hello, here I am. And this is my name.
Yes.
They really are. Each piece is a conversation. Each piece is having a conversation with us. Yeah, that's so beautiful.
I'm really dark in this picture here, aren't I?
You're a little dark. Yeah. Just because the sun is setting. I'm sure that's happening to me, but I've got the gallery lights on, so I'm like,
okay. Here we go. It's a little bit better.
That's great. Thank you. The beautiful natural light.
I am here. There we go.
Oh my goodness.
I like this one a lot. This one has that idea of like the landscape and then the reflection in the water. So there's a lot of, living down here on the coast, what I do is I am outdoors a lot. So it's a lot of marshes and this is the edge. For me, this immediately became the edge of land and then the reflections and the drag and then a stick across. Those things are really trigger.
Yeah. And I love the variation of color here. Like, I would be so afraid of brown. You are not afraid of brown, which I really love. In the purple, in the layering, in the blue underneath there. And it shimmers in a way to me. I can see that reflection. Yeah, it's beautiful.
See, it should be 48 by 48. I don't think I can do it that big.
Oh, that's the idea of like with such a small work, when you do add like a big thing of color, it really does change it because it's so small. So it's like, it seems like maybe it's like an easier ask for a smaller piece, but it's still just as challenging.
Oh yeah.
Like that's amazing to me. I love that. Yeah, this one's fun too. It has that element of mixed media, like spring rain. And I like, for some reason this year, artworks that have these scratches in them are like really resonating with me. I love that confidence. I love taking another, like, the edge of your paintbrush or the end of your paintbrush or however you're doing that. And like, they seem so visceral and they seem so real to me. And there's a number of pieces by Betsy that have them too. And those have really been resonating with me so far this year.
There's something really, satisfying about making that kind of a mark. You can't do it twice. So most people do what I'm doing in these paintings twice, and you can't cover it up. It's because it's this layer thing. You can only do it once, and then you can only go forward. So which is another process that I really enjoy. In the studio.
Yes. Yeah. It's sort of layering and reacting. And I love this one. This one to me is sort of like the most traditional like landscape. It's actually right behind me here. It just feels like New Hampshire mountains, in the springtime. That brings
it really does. Yeah.
Or not that I've been there, Ireland, it seems like it could resonate a lot with that as well. It's really beautiful. And has that great the media layering. I love the contrast between here and like how light and fluffy the cloud forms sort of seem. It's so beautiful. Let's see what's my next question here. What's next for you? What's going on for you? Do you have shows coming up? Do you have ideas you're working on in this?
I do.
Okay, perfect.
I right now I have a big show up at the Cliff House in Maine, and a lot of paintings. He took a lot of paintings, so it's kind of, the gallery is kind of like in one of the long hallways with a little. Have you been there before?
I haven't been there. I've heard the best things about that space.
It's surprisingly nice. It really is great. And so that was kind of fun, and I hadn't really planned on it, and he gave me a call, and I have a lot of work, abstract landscapes that have been in shows. So I was able to take them up there, and so that's a big thing for me. It cleared out this whole shelf in my studio. It's like, whoa, whenever you get a hole like that in your studio, you immediately can think of like 100 things that you want to do to fill it back up. So, it's like, oh, maybe I should order those 36 by 36 canvases.
Now I have the room for them.
Yeah, I have room for them. Now they're 7 special at Michael's, oh no. So immediately you want to fill that. But so that's a good thing that's going on there. And then, let's see, what else have I got? I think I wrote that down. I'm doing Bowie. Have you been over to Bowie?
I haven't. I'm going on May 2nd. I'm meeting a friend there. And I love that show so much. I probably take like 200 photos, and I make so many friends and do a lot of show bookings like for the next year based on that. So I can't wait to get there.
Yeah, that's a really fun thing. He's a great guy. He just,
Al does such a great job, and is like, so every time I see him, he's like so excited. And we went like the last day last year, and he was so funny. He was like coming in for a last soak, and I was like, yes, we are. like thinking about, and to put on that show,
I
I
know.
did one kind of inspired by that, our first February here in Seesaw. And it's like, it was really, really tough because you're just trying to give so many opportunities to so many people. And the space is so large and gorgeous. It's just, it's so fun for me because a lot of people are asking me, hey, how do I get into shows? What should I do? That one is a sure bet. No matter who you are, you can get in. And that is a really tough thing to find. So are
Yeah.
you in the Art PM or are you doing another show? Or?
No, I am in the PM because I really appreciate that. So that it also is, you're talking about how it's open to everyone. So I really like the community idea there, so as I spend longer in the art community and the art world, I'm realizing how much more important the community is than I ever suspected. I'm of a generation where we worked in solitude pretty much. And,
Yeah.
you would go to an opening and get drunk and get in a fight, that kind of thing. So it's really, I really love the way that that's changed now. And that, there is this community building and there is this support because it's tough out there. And that kind of encouraging artists and like you're doing, and encouraging curators and the art community to not see themselves as competitors, but as, mutual supporters. I think that's so good.
Yeah, we call it, and we steal this from a couple of great downtown restaurants here in Manchester. There's a little consortium of owners and workers, and everybody sort of helps each other out. It's like, oh, this bartender was at this one last weekend. Well, they kind of like help each other out. And I was listening to a great podcast, and one of the bar owners said that it was about community, not commerce. So I sort of adopt that and say it's community, not competition, because there's only one Dustan Knight who has this style, right? And there's only one Amy Regan who is going to like curate a show in my own way. So I feel like, especially in the arts, more is more. And it's also going to help other artists or curators feel comfortable to take that step and to say, well, Dustan is doing it, I'm going to try it out, or Amy is doing it, and that resonates with me trying to be a curator. So that to me is really exciting, because if you're the only one out there doing it, you feel so alone. But if you can, idea share, I feel like there's a lot of idea sharing going on and a lot of intentional connectivity, which I try to support as much as I can.
Well, I love that. And, I think that, I think right now there's some curators out there, which are super important. And you're one of them, that really, it's not just like the next 3 months, it's like the next 5 years, and sort of encouraging you guys to feel like this is a welcoming environment for you, because, in the arts, you don't make money. I don't know if you think that, but it's very rare.
Yes.
So you do it because you love it, so you want it to be fun.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. After every show, I say like, oh, do I want to do this again? It's so much work. I do monthly exhibitions. They're out for 15 days. But then I'll look back and I'll say like, I made this connection. I really enjoyed living with this art. There's always one thing that just like kind of pushes it up a little bit. And it's fun to keep that going. And it's fun to be excited to come back to it, for sure. And it's because of artists like yourself who acknowledge that and give the encouragement and say, hey, what you're doing is really important, because I do feel like we work all in our own mediums and styles in vacuums. So when you have some positive reinforcement, it's like, oh my goodness, like somebody actually sees it. I mean, I'm posting these paintings, like I think it's 3 a day to get through the 44 pieces I have on view for 14 days. And I laugh every time somebody likes something. It's like somebody saying, hey, Amy, how's it going? I like this. It's not just a like, it's like, hi, how are you? And I'm, working my 9 to 5 and, it's sort of coming on my watch and I'm thinking, oh, I love that, Oh, it's so funny.
So that's exactly the way that I feel too. When I get a show like this, it's like, oh yeah, good. So we were talking about success, and I guess we sort of jumped to your fifth question, which
That's
is,
totally fine. We can do that.
which is,
Yeah.
how do you survive in this environment? And that's sort of acknowledgement and getting a couple people that, that are there for you. And, it makes it worthwhile. So I don't, now it's different for everybody, of course.
Mhm.
Some
Yeah.
artists are really, checking their sales record. It's really about, or, you talk to some of them who are really trying to maximize their production. They want to do, 50 paintings a week or something.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
and that's their way of sort of deciding whether or not they're successful. Or sales. You run into artists all the time, well, have you made a sale? I haven't made a sale. Well, I haven't made any sales except for the 3 I did last week, and so, so it's, so you have to choose how you're going to evaluate your success. And for me at this point, because I'm not doing work that's, it's not quite as easily saleable in this environment as realism, for example.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
It really has to resonate with the buyer.
Right.
Yeah,
So this is, so I've chosen another way of deciding whether or not I was successful. And you're exactly right. It's like having someone say, hey, I really like that painting, or, and whether or not they buy it, or as artists,
Mhm.
that piece, I really admire you for, what you're working on. It begins to be very satisfying to sort of get those little likes. Isn't that silly? It's kind of silly.
No, it's so
but it's
silly.
kinda nice.
And it's just something, we sort of become accustomed to, but it's not lost on me that the work is resonating with people. I am a big advocate for making art accessible to all. So that's why I'm on social media so much and just being like, I totally get it. It's not easy to get to Manchester when I happen to be here. So I want to make sure that the work is being seen by as many people as possible in the best way that I can. So just seeing that, wherever you are, riding the bus on your way to work and you happen to like Farm Hill by Dustan Knight, it's like, that's great. You're seeing that and it's resonating where you may not have been able to see it before. So it's kind of
really a wonderful thing at this era, in this time, we
Yeah.
used not to have this. So it's really great to have this available. And another thing is this is kind of silly too, but I always feel as though when people take the work home, it's really a feeling of they're my friends.
Yes.
It's
Yeah, I get that.
It's kind of crazy, but it's like they're seeing something that in my work that I'm something vulnerable about, that they are responding to, and it's like yeah, we're pals, and then they're living with the work, which is also really something. Yeah.
Like you brought it to life. It's a piece of your heart. It's a piece of you. And then now that handoff where it goes to the collector and they're living with it for the rest of their lives. So it would be lovely to sort of say like, hey, you've had my piece for 10 years now. What are you thinking about it? Like, what does it remind you of? Does it remind you of that day that you purchased it? Or does it remind you of another day where there's a prominent, like, I just love the idea that everybody is bringing their own perspectives to the pieces and chatting about them is so important to me. I really love that. I always share the buyer's name, their email address, their social media, if I know it, with the artist, because I feel like that's a connection that the artist should have. And that's another like community over commerce. Like I'm not going to be sort of gatekeeping about who's purchasing the art. So I encourage artists to add them to their email address. This is our email lists. It's resonating with those collectors and they want to follow you, that's important to me. This is the piece with glitter in it.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
You can barely kind of see it a little bit. And it's
that's another thing. It doesn't photograph very well. So
really
my
kinda
pieces
do
are
have
kind
to
of tough to photograph, They're so much better in person.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny because I think like I'll take a photo of everything just so it's consistent and in gallery. And I sort of have to like get myself to do it every month because it just takes a little bit of time. But at the same point, like obviously, I think it's really important to see the work in person and to experience the work in person. So it sort of goes without saying, but yeah, I'm going to keep clicking through here. And one of my other questions is, where can we keep up with you? What's the best way to know what's going on with you?
Well, I have a website, and I have Instagram, and I have Facebook. And I'm actually, I kind of enjoy doing Facebook and Instagram, which is kind of a surprise as well. But I like to post things, and sometimes, again, I have friends that post things, and you get so that you recognize their work because it's very consistent.
Yep.
And I'm just not that kind of artist. And I think, Dusty, you just posted these other pieces. Are you sure you want to bring this totally different, new, crazy stuff that you're doing now and posting that as well? So there's always kind of a struggle with me in terms of, kind of marketing the presentation.
Yeah, like that continuity kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I usually just give up and just put up whatever I'm interested in. And
honestly, like that would be my recommendation, because I think the more authentic you are, and just from our conversation, like you're working on things that are resonating with you across all mediums on any given day. So like whatever you're excited about, I feel like is what's going to come through talking about the work. I don't know. I feel like it's so funny because it's like, you got to stay consistent and you have to make sure like it's all like very whatever. But I mean, I never look at somebody's entire profile and say, well, I don't know, there's this one. I had an artist ask me recently, they have the art account and they have their personal account. And it was just getting too much to handle. Like, you got to think about what you're posting on your personal. You got to think about what you're doing on your art account. And my advice was like, just put them together. Like, we want to see your gorgeous, daughter as well. And we want to see what you're doing. And it kind of like rounds it out, and it becomes a more authentic voice. And honestly, if it's easier, then like, let's do it, because there's no time to do this anyways.
yeah,
I don't post on my, like, I'll do a story on Instagram, but I usually don't post on my Instagram account just because like the gallery and the museum keep me busy. Like, I don't want to have a strategy for like myself. I should, but it's honestly where I'm meeting most of my artists as well. When I have a show idea and I need to do a pairing, I'll just scroll through my account and say like, okay, who's around? What are they up to? I'll usually follow someone for a couple of years before I reach out to them. That's typically kind of my thing. And then like, it's just so helpful for that. So I feel like there's a lot of, it's a scale. It's good and bad, but I feel like it is also really helpful to know that when you want to see work, you know exactly where you could go to get the resources and to show up in person or enjoy it online, whatever is the most approachable to you. So,
yeah,
yep,
that's great.
Excellent. Well, this has been so much fun. I feel like I could chat with you forever, which is
Thank
just
you, Amy.
Let me get back to my thank you slide because I just can't stop looking at this work here. Dustin's work is included in our exhibition entitled Dreamlands, which also includes works by Betsy Holmes and Lauren Carjala. My pleasure to have a really high quality, gorgeous exhibition of painters who happen to be New Hampshire based and who happen to be women. It's just like it all came together really, really well. And it's just so fun to be able to put that together. The show is closing on April 27th, which is this Sunday. I have plenty of time to come down and also you can make an appointment on the website if you'd like to come down. You can also see what our open hours this weekend are on our visit page. I'm just popping that in the chat for anybody who wants to resource that. And it's also viewable online. I'll be taking install shots tonight before I go home and sharing some lovely videos and the images tomorrow. So yeah, thank you so much, Dusty. This has been such a pleasure. It has really been lovely to have this work in the gallery and to also be in a constant conversation with yourself.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks so much for having me. And thanks everyone for checking in.
Thanks, everyone. We'll talk soon. Have a great night.
See you. Bye.
Bye.